Hey everybody, it's Shauna, and I am going to be reviewing Summerfield's 2015 article, Education as a Collective Accomplishment, How Personal, Peer, and Parent Expectations Interact to Promote Degree Attainment. It focused on the factors that help contribute to degree attainment. College completion has been on the decrease, and this is affecting the quality of the U.S. workforce and the wages. The wage gap is increasing along with unemployment rate for high school graduates compared to those with a bachelor's degree. The job market is calling for more employees to have a degree, but they're not being filled due to that drop in college completion rate. It was noted that the U.S. is not alone in this dilemma, and data from 20 other countries was able to show a correlation between education and the employment rate. So even though the demand for highly educated workers is increasing, the college completion rate is not keeping up at the same rate. It was said that U.S. college enrollment rates rose from 49% in 1975 to 70% in 2009, but completion rates increased less than 3%, ending at just 53% during that same time frame. So we can see the gap there. This is predicted to cause a deficit. So calling for more research as to what factors contribute to degree attainment is essential if we want to see a qualified workforce on the rise. The purpose of this article was to conduct a longitudinal study examining why enrollment in universities is rising, but completion rates are not doing the same. Data was collected by students participating in the longitudinal study of American youth, also known as the LSAY, which is the longest running study that has tracked about 6,000 students over two cohorts that began in 1987. One cohort was looking at students in 10th grade, and the other had students in 7th grade. Those 7th graders were actually attending the feeder school that the 10th graders were currently in. So they would be there eventually, and it would be easier to track them over that period of time. All data was qualitative using surveys, including questions about family, student attitudes, educational experiences and achievement, post-high school plans, out-of-school activities, and support for those educational interests. In 2006, additional grant money for the study was given, and more surveys were conducted in the years 2006 to 2009. And that actually included an additional 5,000 participants. They used these surveys to track educational and occupational outcomes. This study ended up using merged data that contains all information collected to date. The key findings concluded that although personal expectations along with peer and parental support are very important to educational attainment, this must be paired with programs provided to our youth, making them believe that higher education and a degree is possible for all students. The study was conducted due to concerns that by the year 2018, and here we are, there would be a deficit in workers that have obtained a bachelor's degree or equivalent due to the decreasing amounts of college completion rates. The article was reporting the findings of the survey responses from the 3,279 that had provided complete information for all the variables being studied. So remember at the beginning, we were talking about how there were 6,000 total participants, but they actually were just looking at that 3,279 that completely answered each question from the survey. The longitudinal study looked at the outcomes 15 years after high school graduation. So the results, although the level of influence did vary depending on demographic background, did indicate that personal, peer, and parental expectations all play a role in degree attainment. Most studies related to student success at a college level have always focused on how prepared a student is academically, but this study was able to show that there are other important factors, and educational preparedness is probably not the most important factor. A correlation was also made to educational policy and programs needing to be updated to influence a student's decision to attend and stay in college. The theoretical frameworks were based on persistence theories and included Tinto's theory of student integration and Bean's student attrition model. Both of these frameworks take into account student background factors like race, socioeconomic status, and high school performance, and say that they will affect a student's ability to fit in academically and socially, which will then lead to persistence of a degree. And we have just been discussing this institutional fit in Mayhew's text the past few classes. How this relates to my job, college, and to American higher education. Well, for myself, teaching a college prep math class, oftentimes I have been the first professor that my students are interacting with. Mostly my class is made up of freshmen, and some have just graduated, others maybe have just are older and coming back to college after time off. So anything I can do to help them have that positive first experience is going to be beneficial. It's always interesting to me the characteristics I can see just by looking at my students. I can see their gender, race, age range, and those are all factors that this study looked at. I always take the time to find out why the students are in my class, what their educational goals are. I always try to build that personal relationship. And then even though I try to get that general background information, a lot of them end up sharing even more with me over the semester. So I think if they feel that I care about them, then that's going to keep them coming to class and hopefully keep them coming back to register for more classes, knowing that their professors care for them. They feel more invested knowing that someone cares. Those looking at what factors play a role in a student getting to the point where they want to attend college, and then what makes them want to stay long enough to actually earn their degree, should be important to everyone employed at a college, whether you're the advisor, whether you're the professor. All those positive educational interactions can determine whether or not a student stays at the university and continues in their program. The personal, peer, and parental factors will be the first things that get them to walk into the door, but then those interactions is what gets them to stay and want to continue and complete their degree. It is important that once a student makes it to college, that they're staying. This will help ensure that our society and economy is going to keep moving in a positive direction. Therefore, when American higher education is appealing and attainable to all students, our society is going to benefit. Job security and increased wages go up with at least a bachelor's degree. Some strengths and weaknesses of this study. I really enjoyed reading and thought the data was pretty interesting. So it was impressive to me that the study started with 6,000 participants. And even though we did say that just 3,279 completely responded, after 15 years, they were able to track down more than 95% of those original 6,000. They were able to track down 5,945 participants of the original sample. So that was pretty impressive. For the LSAY to be the longest running study of its kind, it continued to collect data and even started a new group of 5,000 participants that they started looking at in 2006. Other strengths included comparing the different variables such as race, gender, parent education, and high school achievement when determining how the personal, peer, and parental expectations affect degree attainment. So they didn't only just look at these variables, but also that connection to the background factors. So for instance, female participants reported higher personal and peer educational expectations than males did. But in the areas of high school achievement and parent expectations, gender didn't seem to make a difference. So it was interesting to see how sometimes that male versus female could play a role in different factors, and sometimes it didn't. There are so many independent variables to look at, and Cresswell's text in chapter 3 was talking about that a little bit more this week. And all of those variables can cause a student to complete or not complete their college degree. One weakness that did stand out to me is that out of the 6,000 original participants, like we've said, only the 3,279 participants data was looked at originally, since they were the only ones that had filled out the surveys completely. So I was wondering, since it was the participants were originally 7th and 10th graders, did they have help from their parents filling out those surveys? And if they did, which I'm assuming they did since they were minors, could those background factors of the parents be a determining factor as far as why it wasn't completed wholly? So, like, did the parent graduate high school? Could they even read the survey? You know, the different factors like that would have had to have been looked at as well to see why just a little over half actually completed the survey. And I know that there are certain policies in place to working with students in K through 12. And I think one of our future assignments, that IRB application, I had made a note earlier in the class that K-12 is not exempt from this. So I'm sure that there are those policies in place to protect minors, and that I may be looking into that in the future, depending on my final research interest. So why is this research important? The study is important for a few reasons. There are not many longitudinal studies, since it is difficult to keep track of participants. So it was, like I had said previously, it was pretty impressive that they were able to track down so many participants, even, you know, up to 15 years after the original study had began. If we can catch students early enough in the K-12 system and then continue to follow them over a longer period of time, we are able to be aware of more variables and reasons for them to be for or against even going to college and thinking that that degree attainment is even a possibility, and is it even important. The earlier we can catch them, the better. Reading the article also helped me understand more about the background factors that may affect a student's motivation to attend and then complete college. So sometimes these variables seem obvious, such as positive educational experiences. It made me more aware of all the different aspects that really do go into a potential student even coming to the decision that they want to attend college someday. Future research of college-going cultures in the K-12 schools should help us understand those choices even more. And that was really the final conclusion of this study, that it wasn't always just these background factors and the peer, parental, and personal expectations, but did the student have access to those programs in K through 12 that said, hey, it doesn't matter where you're from or what your parents did, a college degree is attainable to everyone.